Sri Gurubhyo Namaha. This is Sunita Gladys Kanaka from Punvidyashram. Good morning, students. How are you? Hope each and everyone are keeping safe. Welcome to the English class. This is part 2. How was the video, children? Did you enjoy? Okay, this is only a gist. Let me read and explain the lesson in detail. Back to the lesson. Making Friends by Louisa May Alcott. In 19th century New England, 4 sisters, the tomboyish Jo, the beautiful Meg, the frail Beth, and the curly-haired Amy, grew up from girls into young women while their father is away at war. Their family is poor, but they are content and happy. They are always willing to make friends and help others. Are the sisters able to make friends with the lonely neighbor? Read this dramatized version of an extract from Little Women. Scene 1. The scene is set in a drawing room. The room has 2 sofas facing each other, 2 deep chairs, a cupboard, and a large coffee table. Between the sofas is the fireplace where a small cheerful fire is blazing. The sofas and chairs are covered with pretty but faded cloth. The curtains at the windows are crimson, bright ones, now faded to a dull color. The effect is one of the shabby but genteel poverty. A young girl is reading on one of the sofas, her feet stretched towards the fire. This is Meg. She looks up as another young girl walks in, wearing rubber boots and a hooded cape with a broom in one hand and a shovel in the other. Back to the lesson. Meg. What in the world are you going to do now, Jo? Jo. Going out for some exercise. Meg. Exercise on a cold day like this? Jo. You can sit here and read Ivanhoe and toast your feet. I'm going out. Jo exits, left. Meg stares after her sister. Meg. Jo. She can never sit still for even a moment, but she'll be back soon, complaining of the cold and telling me how her feet and ears and fingers are frozen and ready to drop off. Here, Meg is giving a brief description about Jo, that she is very active, cannot sit in one place for a long time. Back to the lesson. A little later, Jo enters with an exciting look on her face. Jo, do you know where I'm going now? Meg looks up startled. Startled means frightened. Meg, oh, it's you, Jo. You startled me. What's the matter? Is it too cold for you? Jo, not a bit. I finished clearing the snow and sweeping a path around the garden. Have you seen the Lawrence boy who lives in that stately mansion on the other side of the hedge? I wonder if he's gone away, or maybe his grandpa does not know what's good for him and keeps him shut all day. He needs somebody young and lively. I have a good mind to go over and tell the old gentleman so. Here, after some time, Jo comes and saying that she has finished clearing the snow in front of the house. And she is talking about the boy, Laurie, who is staying in the big house next to their house. Scene 2. The curtains rise to show Laurie looking out of his window. Jo throws a handful of snow towards him. Laurie turns his head to look at Jo. Here, Laurie is peeping out from his window, and Jo throws a snowball on Laurie, and Laurie turns back and look at Jo. Jo. How do you do? Are you sick? Laurie. I had a bad cold and have been shut up for a week. Joe. I'm sorry. What do you amuse yourself with? Don't you read? Laurie. Not much. They won't let me. Joe. Can't somebody read to you? Laurie. Grandpa does sometimes, but my books don't interest him and I hate to ask Brooke all the time. Joe. Have someone come and see you then. Laurie. There isn't anyone I like to see. Boys make such a row. Make such a row means create a lot of noise. Joe. Isn't there some nice girl who'll read and amuse you? Laurie. Don't know any. Joe. You know us. Laurie. So I do. Will you come, please? Joe. I am not quite a nice, but I'll come if mother will let me. I'll go and ask her. Shut that window like a good boy. In this scene, Joe and Laurie is having a conversation and getting to know each other. Laurie is having a very bad cold, so he has been shut up in the house for a week. Joe is asking how he passes the time cooped up in the house for so long. He says they will not let him read any books and nobody will read to him. He and his grandpa's choice of books are entirely different, and he doesn't want to disturb his tutor, Mr. Brooke, all the time. So, Joe asks him why he can't invite his friends to come and see him. Laurie says he doesn't know anybody. So Joe asks if she can come and see him. So Laurie is happy and tell her to come. So Joe says she will ask her mother and then visit him. Scene 3. When the curtains rise, we see a young boy in a flutter of excitement. Flutter of excitement means great excitement at the idea of having company. He frequently glances at the door as if expecting someone. A bell peals in the distance. Peals means rings. And the boy stops transfixed. Transfixed means surprised. His head on the side as if listening to something. A maid walks in from the right to announce that a young lady has come to see him. Laurie. All right, show her up. It's Miss Joe. Here, Laurie is in great excitement of Joe coming to visit him. He goes on looking at the door to see if anybody is coming. He hears the ring of the doorbell and the boy becomes still, listening for something. The maid tells him that a young lady has come to see him. Laurie says the maid asks the lady to come in. Joe appears with a covered dish in one hand and Beth's 3 kittens in the other. Joe. Here I am, bag and baggage. Mother sent her love and would be glad if I could do anything for you. Meg wanted me to bring some of her blancmange, and Beth thought her cats would be comforting. I knew you would laugh at them, but I couldn't refuse. Here, Joe comes, a dish in one hand and 3 kittens in the other hand. And bag and baggage, it's an idiom which means with everything. She says her mother sent her love and Meg sends blancmange. Blancmange is a cold dessert. And Beth sends her kittens. Laurie. That looks too pretty to eat. Joe. Tell the girl to put it away for your tea. It's so smooth, it will slip down without hurting your sore throat. I came to amuse you. Shall I read aloud? Laurie. Thank you. If you don't mind, I'd rather talk. Joe. Not a bit. I can talk all day. Beth says I never know when to stop. As Laurie is having cold, she is asking the maid to give the blancmange along with the tea. Joe asks Laurie whether she can read aloud, but Laurie says he wants to talk. Laurie, is Beth the rosy one who stays at home a good deal and sometimes goes out with a little basket? Joe, yes, she's my girl, and a regular good one she is too. Laurie, the pretty one is Meg, and the curly-haired one is Amy. Joe, how did you find that out? Here, Laurie asks Joe whether Beth is the little one who stays at home and sometimes goes out with a little basket, and Meg the pretty one and Amy has curly hair. So Joe is surprised about how Laurie knows that. Laurie, why you see, I often hear you calling to one another, and I can't help looking over at your house. I beg your pardon for being so rude, but sometimes you forget to draw the curtain at the window where the flowers are, and when the lamps are lighted, it's like looking at a picture to see the fire and you all around the table with your mother. Her face is right opposite, and it looks so sweet behind the flowers. I haven't got any mother, you know. Here, Laurie tells that he can often hear them calling out to each other, and also since the curtains are not drawn, he can see them always together. Joe, we'll never draw that curtain anymore, and I give you leave to look as much as you like. I just wish, though, instead of peeping, you come over and see us. Mother is so splendid. She would do you heaps of good, and we'd have jolly times. Wouldn't your grandpa let you? Here, Joe tells him that she will never draw the curtains anymore. She also tells him that there is no need for him to look through the window. Instead, he can visit their house and they can have lots of fun. Joe asks Laurie whether his grandfather will let him visit them. Laurie, I think he would if your mother asked him. He is very kind and he lets me do what I like. Pretty much, only he is afraid I might be a bother to strangers. Joe, but we are not strangers. We are neighbors, and you needn't think you'd be a bother. We want to know you. Laurie, come down and see our library. Grandpa is out, so you needn't be afraid. Joe, I'm not afraid of anything. Here, Laurie says that his grandfather will allow, but he doesn't want Laurie to bother anybody. Now, Laurie asks Joe to come and see their library because Joe likes to read and not to be scared because grandfather is gone out. Here ends scene 3. Scene 4. The curtains rise to a library scene in the Lawrence house. The room is lined with books, and there are pictures and statues and distracting little cabinets full of coins and curiosities. On the wall is a portrait of a handsome, stern-faced elderly man. A maid walks in. Maid. The doctor to see you, sir? Laurie walks away and Joe is left standing before the portrait of the old gentleman. The door opens and someone walks in. It is the old gentleman in the painting. He is dressed in an elegant suit and seems surprised to see a young girl in the room. But before he can say anything, Joe begins speaking without turning. Here, The scene is the library of the Lawrences. Just then the maid comes and tells Laurie that the doctor has come to see him. Laurie goes out to see the doctor, and Joe is standing and looking at the portrait. Portrait means painting of Laurie's grandfather with her back to the door. Just then, grandfather comes in and he was surprised to see a young girl in the room, but Joe couldn't see him. Joe, I'm sure now that I shouldn't be afraid of him, for he's got kind eyes, though his mouth is grim, and he looks as if he has a tremendous will. He isn't as handsome as my grandfather, but I like him. Grandfather, thank you, ma'am. Joe gives a squeal of dismay and whirls around, her hand clapped to her mouth as she stares at old Mr. Lawrence. Curtains fall. Here, Joe speaks, looking at the portrait. She says that she is not afraid of him because his eyes are kind, though his mouth is grim. Grim means stern. She also says that he is not as handsome as her grandfather, but she still likes him. Grandfather thanked her. In surprise, she turns round, looks at Mr. Lawrence. Here ends scene 4 as well as the lesson. Here ends part 2 of Making Friends, written by Louisa May Alcott. Making Friends is an extract from one of her famous novels, Little Women. I request you to go through this session with a rapt attention. This lesson will continue in part 3. Till then, bye from Sunita Gladys Kanaka. Thank you.